All right, so now we're gonna really start building the piece up, adding more pieces on. If you have a lot of crumbs all over your surface, I just recommend cleaning it. If you roll in a bunch of dried crumbs, they're going to get into your, my template. They're going to get into your coils, and they're gonna leave little dry crunchy pieces, which might come out to be little uneven spots in the future. So I just like to clean my surface. I always keep it clean. I think it's a good idea to always have a bucket of water at your table and a sponge, just so that you can do that. All right, so I'm gonna grab some clay from my bag. And this is the leftover clay that I had before, so I don't have to wedge it because it's not really sticky. And I'm just gonna take a chunk to roll my coil. Again, I start in a way that the coil already looks like what it's gonna be, or the lump of clay rather looks like a coil before I get started. So I just kind of squeeze it out. Again, we don't want really thick coils. We don't want super tiny coils. And I'm just gonna start to roll. I start with my one hand. Once it's big enough to fit both hands on, I'm gonna start to roll with both hands. When I roll the coil, I'm not putting a ton of pressure on. If you put a ton of pressure on, you're gonna get thin spots. So make sure that you're keeping your pressure pretty consistent and pretty light. If you're going so light that nothing's happening, try pushing down a little bit harder. And if you're pushing down so much that you're getting really thin areas or the coil's breaking apart, try using a little less pressure. I would actually recommend practicing rolling coils before you even start with your base or attaching, just so that you get really good at it, so that way it's easy for you to do. My goal is in our 40-minute class period for you to attach 3 or 4 coils at the most. Stop, take a pause, assess your form, and refine it, and then wrap up to start fresh the next day. If your piece is too soft and you keep trying to build up, it can collapse. So you want to make sure that you're waiting for it to set up before you keep attaching coils and keep trying to add a lot of height to it. So I'm gonna bring my piece over. I'm gonna measure, rip off about here. Ripped it a little too short. So I'm just gonna roll it out. So before I add on my next piece, I'm just going to score the top of this. I dip in my slip and I just score the bottom piece. I'm going to attach the coil on, attach the 2 ends together, and then I'm going to start to smear it together. I'm using my finger on the inside to smear it all together. Notice this hand. This hand's job is to keep my clay from stretching out really wide. If I don't have this hand here, what might happen, which will most likely happen, is as you're pushing out on the clay, it's going to start getting wider and wider. So this hand is going to keep you from getting wider. Make sure that we're nice and compressed down. And then I'm going to smear from the outside as well. When you're first starting off on your piece, refining the base is definitely going to be a little bit more complicated because it's so close to the ground or so close to whatever it is you're working on. Don't worry too much about making it look perfect. You just want to get those coils attached. Again, 3 to 4 coils, and then stop to evaluate your shape. I also have my template near me, and that way I can kind of keep myself knowing what needs to happen next. So I need to start bringing these coils out. So we'll talk about that when I put the next coil on. What I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna go around the edges and just kind of pinch them a little bit, similar to when we made our pinch pots. And I'm just feeling for the clay to be nice and even. If I notice an area that's really thick, I kind of push a little bit harder, spend an extra minute on there, just to get it to be consistently the same thickness.